Sorry I can't be with you today. I'm not feeling very well. I want to simply thank Carrie and also Olivia from the city, both representing the city of Coon Rapids, for being with us tonight and telling us what the wonderful work they've been doing to help that be an energy wise city. The lady that couldn't be with us, she's sick also, was Kelsey Brought. She is the Sustainability Commission Chair, and the commission will have a lot to do with the information that the council has approved of. Thank you all again for being there. I will listen carefully to what comes next, and Kathleen will take over.
I am Kathleen Seacon. I'm one of the 3 new program director co-chairs, along with Lonnie and Kathy Tinkelstad, who is traveling and will be back the end of the week. My pleasure is in introducing 2 of the people who will be presenting tonight. Carrie Ray Rauer graduated from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities with a bachelor's in biology and a master's in education. With a career that spanned 20 years as a licensed life and earth science public school teacher, Carrie has a deep commitment to the sciences and to environmental action. As a current Coon Rapids City Council member, Carrie has a proven track record of working to mitigate climate change and promote sustainability. Olivia Dorow-Hovland is the sustainability planner for the city of Coon Rapids. She has previously worked as city planner and transportation planner. While with the city of Coon Rapids, she has developed and managed the Green Homes Energy Efficiency Incentive Program and helped create the city's first energy action plan. In 2021, Coon Rapids also became the first Soul Smart solar-friendly certified city in Anoka County. She continues to work to advance sustainability in the city and serves as the staff liaison to the city's Sustainability Commission. So I think Carrie is going to go first, so welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having both of us here tonight. I'd like to thank all of you for what you do to support our democracy through voter registration and voter information. It's so important work. Olivia and I are here to talk about the Energy Action Plan recently passed by the Coon Rapids City Council. But we are also here standing on the backs of giants. So if you don't mind, I'd like to take just a couple minutes to thank some folks. So many came before us that allowed this plan to move forward. Lonnie McCauley, who is joining us virtually tonight, is one. She's a former mayor of Coon Rapids and a league member. And Lonnie has been working diligently to promote sustainability in Coon Rapids since before I graduated from high school. Lonnie, Deanne Christensen, Kathy Welshel, Jerry Newton, and Kathy Tinkelstad were all members of the Coon Rapids Regenerative Energy Task Force, and this group led the way with activism toward changing Coon Rapids ordinances to allow for more solar in the city. And I have to say, Deanne Christensen, who is a friend of mine, passed away in December. She participated in our Energy Action Plan work and with our team and with me. And I'll fondly always remember her vivacious laughter during the meetings and her very bold questions that she would pose to us. I see Kathleen Seacon here, and she spoke earlier with introducing us with those great introductions. And she served 2 terms in the House of Representatives and was advocating for environmentalism on a large scale before I graduated from college. And both Kathleen and Lonnie opened the doors for women serving an elective office in this region. And Lonnie was the first female mayor of Coon Rapids. So thank you so much, and I wouldn't be here to do any of this work without all of you. Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes, and we love our parks, our trails, our lakes, and our rivers. We get outside in all seasons, even when it's really cold. And we're dedicated environmentalists. I have hope that we can take the lead on climate action just as we led on cleaning up our waters in the past. In Minnesota, we're already experiencing the effects of climate change. We have periods of extreme flooding, we've had periods of extreme drought, crop losses are increasing, and our farmers know so is the cost of crop insurance, it's rising. Around the world, our oceans are warming, becoming more acidic, and losing oxygen. Glaciers are melting, sea levels are rising. Our farmers and our future generations deserve our respect and our bold action. We must act now like this is the crisis that it is for both Minnesota and for our entire planet. We have the potential to make a large difference on climate action right here. As Minnesota leads the way in the Midwest, other nearby states will follow us. And in fact, if the Midwest were a country on its own, it would actually be the 5th largest producer of greenhouse gases in the world. So the work that we're starting here and we're doing in Minnesota spreads to the Midwest, we can have a very big impact. So for the better or the worse, that means what we do will make a difference. And I believe in us, and I believe we can have an impact for the better. So what specifically can we do? We can do the work, every single one of us. We each have a role to play, and the energy action plan that we have here in Coon Rapids is a big step forward with helping our residents play their own role. I'm going to turn it over to Olivia Dorow-Hovland to share the details of the plan with you. Olivia is our Coon Rapids Sustainability Director, and she graduated from the University of Minnesota with a master's in urban and regional planning and a master's of public health, and she's led the way to Coon Rapids becoming a Green Step 5 city and a Silver Soul Smart city. And Olivia is quoted as saying, "Sustainability happens when local networks are strong, neighbors know each other, and residents feel responsible for their cities." Olivia.
All right, thank you guys for having me, and thank you, Councilmember Ray Rauer, for that introduction. I'm really excited to be here to talk with you and share some of Coon Rapids' work. So just to begin, we have sort of ran through the introductions. I am the sustainability planner for the city, and I'll sort of walk you through what sustainability work Coon Rapids is doing and who all is involved, and then we'll dive into the energy action plan that we have passed just this spring. So first, I always like to start off sort of establishing a shared definition of sustainability. So this is one that I like to use a lot, and it really shows that sustainability is environmental, it's economic, and it's social. And considering sustainability in each of those realms can really give you a more holistic view of projects, of the work that cities do, and just all the pieces that go into creating resiliency. And the reason that we want to do sustainability work at the city level is that this work makes our city more affordable, efficient, and responsible. It makes Coon Rapids supportive, healthy, and safe, and it makes our environment more resilient and diverse and generative. So I think all of this just helps build on each other and make the case for why a city should be pursuing work like this. So Coon Rapids has been working on sustainability for a long time. We've had a sustainability commission since 2010, and they meet monthly. They meet to this day and are very involved resident volunteers who work with staff and sort of promote different projects, ask us different questions, weigh in on ordinances, a wide variety of work. We also have staff that are working in the sustainability arena across many different departments. So we have a city forestry department. Our park staff works on our native landscapes and on sustainable management of all of our public land. We have an engineering department that has a new Living Streets policy that is really focused on making sure that our street projects are environmentally responsible. We have an excellent recycling center, and then I am housed in the community development department and really try to bring all of this work together and start some new projects off. So we have been part of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's Green Step Cities program since, I think, 2014. It's a 5-tier program that asks Minnesota cities to undertake different sustainability actions and then recognizes them at different levels of achievement. So we became Green Step 1 in 2014, and we reached Step 5, the final step, last year. And that was sort of the result of a lot of performance measurement and analysis that goes into, or that collects data on what work the city is doing across all of our different domains, and requires that we show improvement on our sustainability metrics. So we have to report new data every year now, and every year that we show improvement, we reach Step 5 again. So it's sort of a continuing commitment from the city that we will be involved with going forward. And then, as Councilmember Rayrauer mentioned, we are now a Soul Smart Silver City. The Soul Smart program is run by the Federal Department of Energy and is meant to help cities become solar ready, to standardize ordinances and make the permitting process efficient and easy. So that is an achievement that we reached in 2022 and will help our residents and businesses install solar quickly and easily. So this is just a summary of all the sustainability related work that we have going on right now. So I mentioned our engineering and transportation department has a new Living Streets policy. We also have a bike patrol and a bike rodeo program. We have a master trail plan that helps us figure out how to build out our trail system and connect to the city. We have a new solar ordinance that was a direct result of involvement from your members, and that ordinance was updated in 2021 and sort of fed into us becoming Soul Smart recognized. We subsidize home energy squad visits for our residents so that they can get assessments of the energy efficiency of their homes. And then we offer them matching rebates for furnaces, air conditioners, water heaters, and air sealing and insulation projects to help bring down the cost of those energy efficient upgrades. And then, as I mentioned, we have a great recycling center. And then on the natural resources side, we have a new smart irrigation controller discount program. So our residents can purchase heavily discounted smart irrigation controllers every year. We also have a forestry department. We install native landscapes on our city-owned property, and we currently have a beekeeping pilot as well. So this was well set up by Councilmember Rayrauer. We're heading into this future now where things are going to get more extreme, temperatures are going to increase, utility prices will go up, and we need to figure out what we as a city can do to manage our own assets and how we can help our residents, our businesses, our institutions also be able to respond to this future scenario. So I like to sort of break down the 4 options that cities have into these buckets. So we can influence and support our residents, institutions, and businesses by planning for sustainability. So this is something that we have done with our Energy Action Plan, which we'll go into next. We can also educate people through communications, through outreach, through our city newsletter and our television station to make sure that people are getting the information they need about just what options are out there for them to become more sustainable and save money. We can also incentivize our residents. So as I mentioned, we have rebates for energy efficiency projects, and we have smart irrigation controller discounts. And then the city can also model itself what best practices are for sustainability work. So we continue to upgrade a lot of our city facilities for energy efficiency. We undertake LED lighting projects. We're converting much of our land to native landscapes and showing people what's possible. So this all leads into our energy action plan, which has been more than a year-long process. And when we went into it, the purpose for this project was to collaboratively create a work plan for sustainability. So when I started in this role in 2021, I always have to do the math, there was a backlog of work that people wanted to do, but there wasn't sort of an overall vision that people had workshopped and agreed on. And so I could, tackle the projects that needed to be tackled, but I also really wanted to get everyone together and talk about what our priorities are and how we can get there. So that was sort of the purpose number one. And then we also wanted to help our residents, our businesses, and the city itself save money. Energy efficiency can really help you, be a responsible steward of your own finances, and can help the city be a responsible steward of your taxpayer money. And then I wanted to identify the most immediate opportunities and build relationships with our residents, with our utility companies, with our stakeholders. And we have done that. So I'll do a little bit of quick background information and then pass it back to Councilmember Rayrauer to give you insight into what this project was like from the Energy Action Team perspective. So when we started, we really wanted to ground our project in the demographics of Coon Rapids to make sure that we were being responsive to the city itself and to what its needs are. So we had our project managers do a demographic assessment. This slide summarizes some of the sort of facts and figures about the city. We have most of our homes being built before the year 2000, which means there's a pretty large opportunity for making sure that those homes are as energy efficient as possible. When you get an energy efficiency assessment, that's about the year cutoff that they ask for. So if you have a home older than 2000, that means there's likely some work that you could do. Homes built after that time that are more newer are likely a little bit more well-sealed or more efficient. But if you have an older home, the good news is that it's very possible to get it up to date and make sure that you are comfortable and that your appliances are working well. We also have a quarter of our city residents are renters, which is a pretty high percent. And when we're thinking about doing education and outreach, we don't want to overlook that population. That's a quarter of our residents that don't immediately own the home that they're living in. And so if you're only focusing on homeowner efforts, you're missing quite a large percentage of who is actually living in the city. And then 10% of our residents speak a language other than English. And so we also want to make sure that we're aware of that and providing resources that can reach everyone. Some of the interesting facts that we stumbled on in this initial analysis are that 92% of our electrical premises or customers in the city are residential, 7% are commercial and industrial, but the commercial and industrial premises use 44% of the total energy. So they are using a disproportionately large amount of electricity and natural gas. These are large manufacturers or big box stores or schools or, places that have a much larger footprint than a single family home. But that also means that there's a really large opportunity. If you can influence only 7% of your premises, you can have 44% of impact. And so that is another thing that we really thought about going into this plan and was nice to keep front of mind in the planning process. And just to sort of ground this in numbers, in Coon Rapids, all of the premises spend $72 million on energy each year. The average residential premise spends $1,700 a year. The average commercial and industrial premise spends $15,400, and the city itself spends over $1 million on utility costs. So there's a lot of money on the table and a lot that people can stand to save. So I will now pass it back to Councilmember Rayrauer to just give you a a little insight into what it was like to work on our energy action team in this group of stakeholders as we went through the planning process.
Thank you, Olivia. It was 6 months of very collaborative, very community-based work. And it was hard work. We put in probably 3 hours of time, met every month for 6 months, all of these folks as members of the team. So you're talking about 15 to 20 people in a room. And how do you get all those ideas and then direct it into a plan? We start with lots of brainstorming, communication, and collaboration, just ideas, different directions we want to go. Who do we want the outreach to get to? And as Olivia said, thank you to Xcel Energy for having this as an opportunity to create this energy action plan with them, because they were able to come to the table with real, actual data. And so knowing that only 7% of the premises are commercial and industrial, but that makes up 44% of the energy use, is something to keep in mind when you're making your plan. So if we only thought about how to reach out to our residents, then we're losing that 44%, right? So we wanted to think about the actual data and use in our city when creating that plan. So we would have posters up, Post-its all over the wall, different collaborative ideas, very, very good discussions of people from lots of different backgrounds. So they're coming with knowledge from the actual energy companies. We have city staff, we had community members, we had community groups, leaders, all in the room together working and facilitating. And then once we took our ideas, we're categorizing them into different main topics, and then thinking about the phases. What needs to happen first? And we were very thoughtful in the first phase should be energy use reduction, because if you go straight to clean energy action, for example, let's say you have your household and you were to not reduce your energy use first, then you have to maybe have double the size of the solar on your roof in order to be enough for that household. But first, you can reduce your energy use by improving insulation or improving your appliances or changing to all LED lights, and your use goes down by half. You would need less solar panels. So it only makes sense to reduce use first and then increase our clean energy projects. Sadly, as a Coon Rapids City Council member, municipal energy only makes up 2%. So what I can actually vote on and make decisions with and have a say on our city budget only makes up 2% of the energy use in Coon Rapids. So we really had to think about how are we going to reach out to our residents, our business owners, and our commercial and industrial centers.
Thank you. So where that all led to was a plan structured with sort of this pyramid in mind. So we started with the goal up front, which I think is on the next slide. And then under that, we had 2 focus areas, renewable energy and energy efficiency. And then in the plan itself, we broke those 2 areas down into a variety of strategies and tactics. So the goal that we landed on was to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 35% by 2030. And this is citywide, so both residential, commercial and industrial, and city greenhouse gas emissions. And doing the math, this would result in almost 5 million of avoided energy spending and would beat our predicted business as usual scenario of a 29% reduction. So the good news is that the electricity sector is rapidly decarbonizing. So if we as a city did nothing, the greenhouse gas emissions in Coon Rapids would go down 29% by 2030. All of our Xcel and Connexus are putting a lot more wind and solar online and feeding that into the grid without the city doing anything on its own. So both of those utility companies are both already about 30% renewable energy in the grid now. So these lights, all of this electricity is funded or is fueled by about 30% renewable energy currently. and they're continuing to do more. So what the city is saying with this goal is that we want to do more than what our electricity companies will already do in this time period to bump our savings up. And I will say that the sort of interesting math that goes into this avoided spending is that over this time period until 2030, your electricity and natural gas rates will continue to go up. So even if you do energy efficiency work on your home, you might not see a decrease in your bill because your rates will go up and sort of keep everything level. So we can't sort of promise people that you're gonna save $50 a month if you do this and your bill will go down by that much. We can say that you will avoid that amount each month because of increased rates. So it's sort of asking people to imagine how much they would have spent in the future if they hadn't done this project. So it's an interesting communications conundrum, but we will avoid $5 million in energy spending by 2030. And then, as I mentioned, our focus areas that we landed on were energy efficiency and renewable energy, with the audiences of residents, businesses, municipal buildings, institutions, multifamily buildings, and educational buildings. The planning process that we embarked on and will continue to implement included the 4 to 6 month plan development that Councilmember Rayrauer talked about. We are now in this 18 to 20 month implementation period with Excel's Partners in Energy program, where they are helping us put into action all of the items in our work plan. And then from there, we will evaluate what we need to do next to reach our goal. So we're getting another 1.5 years of support from Excel Energy, and the work plan items all sort of fit into that time period. And if you would like to look at the energy action plan with the work plan items all included, I have a few copies up here that you can peruse. So I wanted to include some data on what results Coon Rapids has already seen. The energy action plan was passed this March, so none of this is really the direct result of the energy action plan, and more so speaks to the sort of rolling train that we're continuing to accelerate. There has been a lot of interest in sustainability in the city in the past, and we're just trying to sort of kick it into the next gear. So in terms of energy efficiency, we have issued 62 energy efficiency rebates to our residents since January 2022, and we have had 67 residents receive discounted home energy squad visits in that time period as well. In terms of solar and renewable energy, the city continues to see permits and renewable energy capacity expand. So in the graph on the right, that's the number of permits we receive each year. So you can see that in 2022, we received double the number of solar permits as any previous year. So there is a large interest in solar in our city, and people are installing it at a sort of breakneck speed. We have over 80 private renewable energy installations in Coon Rapids right now. And you can see in the graph on the left, the total sum capacity of those 80 installations as they go online over time. So in 2021, we saw a large increase because one of our large industrial buildings put a megawatt of solar on their roof, which really helped our statistics. But in 2022, we had those 36 installations that helped continue the trend. So the sort of last thing that I will say before I hand it back to Councilmember Rayrauer for any wrap-up remarks is that there's a lot of things that you can do and ways that you can get involved on an individual level. Home energy squad visits are a really great way to start. They'll help you identify all of the energy efficiency opportunities in your home, connect you with contractors, give you a menu of options that you can tackle, and even if you are not a Coon Rapids resident, you can access those visits for $100 or less. So they're available to anyone who is a customer of CenterPoint Energy or Excel Energy. And those are something that we really promote because they are so incredibly helpful. They'll even look at your insulation and tell you if your insulation is up to par, and if not, what you can do about it. So it's a really thorough analysis. And then, as I mentioned earlier, our electric utility companies are rapidly decarbonizing our electric grid. And so the more we can shift from natural gas appliances to electric appliances, the more that usage will be fueled by renewable energy. So that is always something that I like to plug for electrification. And then I would also say continuing to talk about this work and sharing your own experiences with sustainability and home energy efficiency can help prove to people or show people the use that you get out of this or the value that you see in this and why it is a good idea. We've benefited a lot as a city from just residents who are passionate and have good stories to share about wins in their own homes, and that has been great. So I'll hand it back.
Yeah, thank you, Olivia. That's a great summary. That's a lot of information. We do have the full printed out energy action plan here. I'm assuming it's also something you can view online on the city's website. And it gives specific details and action items that we will be doing as a city. A big piece of it is educating our residents, our businesses, our commercial and industrial premises of the opportunities that are out there for any types of programs they can utilize, grants they can get, and so on. So those incentives are a great way to think about how to, get a little bit less of the cost on some of those projects. And always, they save money over the long run, so that initial investment, saving money over the long run. And I'm sure that you would welcome any types of questions at the city about projects that folks could do. So I just want to say I will personally be committed to ongoing sustainability, clean energy action, as much as we can do. From the little stuff, pulling the, recycling everything I possibly can in the house, including pulling those, soda cans that end up in the garbage from maybe a daughter of mine and putting it into the recycling bin, to storing all of the recyclables that can't go in curbside. I store in the back of my garage and then bring it over to the Coon Rapids Recycling Center, which is getting a large improvement and expansion. It's amazing how many things are recyclable there that you wouldn't even think about, and our recycling bin is overflowing every couple of weeks, and our garbage can is less than half full. And if you really think about it, it's a great thing to do. To speaking up at every city council meeting where I have the opportunity, where we're talking about energy action, where we're talking about sustainability in support of those things. But I would love you as community members to also speak up. So think about what you can do yourselves, but also how you can advocate. Because really, as a council member, we want to do the things and act on the things that our residents want done. And when we hear your voices, whether it be emails, phone calls, or speaking at a council meeting, it really does make a difference. It might take some time, but eventually these things get passed when we hear our residents' voices. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I will, Lonnie's muted. Lonnie, are you okay with me talking for a little bit and then you can do questions, or how do you want to handle questions? There we go.
Gretchen, you can just have at it from now on.
Okay.
I'm listening.
All right, I will do that then. So I'll start off with my own question. So I want to thank you guys for being here. This was a very informative talk. As a resident of a different city, this one, Andover, I don't see us doing anything like this. And I wanted to let you know that we did invite all the cities to send their city council people or to have them tune in, and I don't see any. So those of us that live in places besides Coon Rapids can take all this information, and we're going to put it on our website in a package kind of format that you can send an email to your city administrator and say, so hey, what are we doing? we don't want to be left in the dust by Coon Rapids, and they're saving money like mad. So how are we going to get on this bandwagon? So that's something that we can all do here. Let's see, we got a question that came in on the chat, and then I know the people in the audience.
Yeah, Gretchen, I would just remind you that we have had advocacy in Coon Rapids here for decades. So
Yes.
it does take time, but it will make a difference. So the more people speak up, well, the more they advocate and the more they email.
Well, and also I think that having an example helps quite a bit. And I know for me, I go to the Coon Rapids Recycling Center all the time, so it's nice to have things available. Have there been any projects, this is a question from the chat, have there been any projects where the city did something successful that can be used as a model for individual homeowners on a smaller scale?
Sure. I can take that one. One of the things that the city has really been focusing on is just LED light conversions for all of our city buildings. We own a lot of buildings and a lot of properties, so it takes time and money to do these upgrades, but we just did our city hall last year, and that has already saved the city $10,000 a year, that project. So it makes a really immediate impact, and on a residential scale is much lower cost than it is to convert an entire office building. So something like LED lights is a great place to start.
Thanks. Any questions from the audience? Yeah, just stand up and I'll repeat it.
Go ahead. What are living streets?
Yeah, explain what living streets are. It sounds a little creepy, frankly.
So Living Streets is a mashup of complete streets and green streets. So complete streets are really meant to make the transportation system work for all users, for cars, for buses, for walkers, bikers, any mode of transportation that would like to use the street. So in the projects, in complete streets projects you might consider, are the pedestrian crossings safe and accessible? Do we need to make any upgrades? Do we need to have any treatments here to make it safer to bike? Are the bus stops easily accessible and visible? Just how does the transportation system function for each mode? And then green streets is really meant to focus on the natural environment, so trying to reduce surface water runoff, install things like bioswales or rain gardens, or use permeable paver, and just sort of really help the water and help the sort of plants that are around the streets. So Living Streets is, as I said, that mashup that asks the city to consider all modes and then to consider the natural environment impacts.
Really is a full detailed planning process. When we think about, when we're doing a large scale project, then we can think about other things that we can do along with that, street reconstruction or development that will make it an even better living and green space for everyone.
So I'm wondering on the sales pitch to the community, and you'll probably have to repeat the question for the listeners. What is, did you find working with people saying saving money kind of caught their attention? Sustainability is kind of one of those vague words. Saving money, we all understand. So when you advocated to your fellow council members, how did you get them to pay attention?
Yeah, so the question is, how did you get people to pay attention? The word sustainability is kind of vague, so you want to talk about your marketing efforts?
Well, I think everyone's on board with how do we help our residents, our businesses, our industries, and our commercial properties save money and think about the future. So how do we as a city help them? And that's really what this is all about. So when we provide the education, when we go around and present, and then when we have readily accessible information of how they could access, say, the home energy audit right on the website there, it's about making it quick and easy and helpful and money saving, again, for each of those folks. And that's really what the main thing is. In addition, Xcel Energy doing the, what's the main name for? Partners in Energy program is really key to this because they are providing hours of manpower, information, and expertise in this planning process to work with us. So this entire planning process gives us that expertise, that hours of help, all for free. And so that's really a key piece of it.
So I need a follow-up. The northern cities have to deal with a utility that's a cooperative, Connexus. And for example, in Andover, when we looked at doing solar panels on a very large roof for the community center and city halls and all the adjacent school buildings, they said it wasn't economically feasible because Connexus wasn't partnering with people on solar like Excel. So I don't know if we've overcome that obstacle with some changes that have happened at the, at the mindset of Connexus. But Connexus thinks it's more efficient to have solar farms than it is to have lots of people doing solar. Did you have any luck working with Connexus?
Yeah, so Connexus was a part of the Energy Action Plan process and provided data to us. So we did have them at the table, which was really useful. In terms of the distributed solar, we haven't made any other breakthroughs or anything like that. So when we have considered installing solar on city properties, we ran into the same result that for us it's only economically feasible right now in Xcel Energy territory. So we're 2/3 Connexus and 1/3 Xcel, so we can focus on our 1/3, and the 2/3 of the city properties we haven't considered as well. But I will say that the solar installations that residents have put up have happened throughout Connexus and Xcel territory. It's really when you reach, when you're trying to do larger installations in Connexus territory that it's not as feasible.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, they do have, someone in the audience pointed out that people are elected to the Connexus board, and so that we can have a democratic process to change those. I have some questions came in on the Zoom, so if you got a minute for these. What effort is being made for inductive stoves to replace electric stoves? I assume that's ranges.
Good question. I feel like the first step is what Olivia had mentioned, is how to go electric in your house. So thinking how to replace your gas furnace and your gas stove with electric. I don't know if I have anything to add on induction yet.
Yeah. No, I think for us right now, it's just education. So we don't offer anything, any sort of rebates or incentives or anything, but just educate people on the options.
I got another question here that is another way that people can reduce greenhouse gases by mowing less. I'm also very concerned about our pollinators and would like to see the city promote the state of Minnesota bee lawns and more education on the use of pesticides and chemicals that are killing pollinators.
Yes, very important. Thank you very much for the comment and the question. I have my bee pin here. So it is another thing that both the Sustainability Commission, Olivia and I all speak up for our bees. I know we have a new thing that we did in Coon Rapids this year where we offered as part of our Arbor Day sale, the sale of wildflowers and different pollinator plants that they could purchase there. Do you want to add more about that program?
Sure, yeah. We had the native plant sale, and we also offered bee lawn seed mix as part of the sale. So we had residents purchase seed mix to convert their lawns.
Well, thank you. Another question, is there a thought for city ordinance to require porous pavement, streets, parking lots to prevent water runoff? So the use of porous pavement is the question.
I do not know the answer to that one, but I'd love to look into it for you.
Okay. It's something, I'm sure it's in your stormwater plan someplace. Did I see a hand in the audience? Yeah, Kathleen.
I have a follow-up on the question about arrays, and perhaps what you were talking about in terms of the percentage of where city land is. That's why, even though it's now permitted, we haven't seen the solar arrays put up yet on city property. Would that be the case?
Yeah, I think we were hoping for some.
Okay, so you want to repeat the question
Sure.
just in case? The question was about building solar arrays on city property and why that hasn't happened yet? Did I get that right?
Oh, city property specifically. Okay. I was thinking in general, we were really hoping to see some developers come in on some of our property and have a solar array. I think because of the size, we don't have, a large enough area. They're looking farther out of the city where they're putting up massive ones, right? So a lot of our energy providers, as they decarbonize the grid, are doing that. We haven't seen that interest directly in Coon Rapids. As far as city solar projects, there were a couple that we workshopped and talked about. I was in support of that, a city project at the water treatment plant. It did not get full council support because there was an opportunity to use funding that we had to put, which I don't think you mentioned, completely convert fire station, was it 1 and 2? To also being fully LED, and we chose those because the lights are on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's coming first. So again, we're doing a lot of those projects to reduce use first.
Thank you. One of our Zoom persons noted that her son demonstrated his new inductive stove and it boiled water in seconds.
Wow.
So I think it uses a lot of power because it's so much quicker. Another one, for the benefit of other communities, did you encounter any resistance to proposals? And if so, how did you get people to change their mind?
I would say it takes time. And the key is just continuing to speak up, never give up, continuing to advocate, and always thinking about there are benefits for every single resident, every single person, and our future generations. And those benefits include saving money. And so there are benefits that people from all sides of the aisle can agree on to these programs and these plans. And keeping in mind what others, the interests that others might have in it, and being able to speak to that is really important.
Thank you. Are there more questions from the audience? Yes.
I've got another one back on the solar topic that we've been talking about. I'm in Andover. I'm in a community that has not really embraced solar, as former Mayor Trude noted earlier. My concern is you talked, I thought, some very good thoughts about preparation that homeowners can make before moving to solar, the savings they could do to kind of prepare themselves. Is that something that you came up with out of your program these last couple of years? Is it something that came out of your partnership with Excel? I'm assuming it was not from your partnership with Connexus. And for those of us that are in a Connexus territory, what can we do to help to better educate people in our communities like Ramsey, Lane, Andover, who have to work with the cooperative, but maybe aren't feeling the push to have that with our homes, a lot more with the solar farming and so forth?
So the sort of structure of doing energy efficiency first and then moving to renewable energy is something that is talked about a lot in sustainability and is not something that I came up with. So I think it's sort of a broadly accessible progression through this work. And I will say that Connexus has a lot of really excellent rebates for residents that still sort of promote that energy efficiency. I know they have rebates for air source heat pumps and for electric water heaters and they'll help you with, EV chargers and time of day charging. So they have a lot of efficiency related incentives for their customers. So I think working with them on those things is possible. And Centerpoint is also has quite a lot of rebates available. So there should be some good programs to access for you. And then I will say, just for sort of an FYI about the solar issue with Connexus, it's not just Connexus that has this 40 kilowatt cap. That's sort of what it is. They won't interconnect with systems that are larger than 40 kilowatts. And it's every sort of utility company has that restriction if they're not Xcel Energy or one other big electric utility whose name is escaping me. So those two are subject to very specific legislative requirements. And then all of the sort of smaller utility companies have that 40 kilowatt cap. So it's not Conexus itself. I want to defend them a little bit. But 40 kilowatts is way larger than any one home would install. So the average size of a solar installation in Coon Rapids is about 10 kilowatts on a residential home. So if you're in Conexus territory, you'll definitely be able to install solar on your home and cover your needs.
I have a question. So batteries for solar, so if interconnecting with the grid is a deterrent or not rewarded, can you just put on batteries and do your own?
Yeah, so if you have a system that is larger than 40 kilowatts, you could do a battery if you would like. Right now, batteries are sort of cost prohibitive. And so I think the first route would just be to install a system where you're using it as you're producing it. And so you don't have to sort of have the battery, but that is definitely an option.
Okay, I saw a hand. Paula?
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's any other cities in Minnesota that you look to for ideas and programs and so forth, or are you plowing new ground here and people are looking at you?
There are a lot of cities that I look to for inspiration. We have a lot of large cities and suburban cities similar in size to this community that are doing really excellent work. So there's a network of sustainability staff at all of the metro cities that meets quarterly to get ideas from each other. I would say the cities that I've interacted with the most are Fridley, St. Louis Park, Edina, Roseville. I know it's a long list, but those are sort of the ones that are coming up and the ones that I know have been very active.
And the group Excel Energy Partners in Energy has done this program that they did with Coon Rapids with a number of those cities before us. So they also were able to bring in data and ideas from those cities when they came and worked with us.
So one more area, if we could talk about the smart irrigation controllers, because water consumption is huge in the growing suburbs. And I have a sister in Woodbury, they are telling people 2 days a week is all they can water now because he uses so much water. Could you talk about smart irrigation a little bit?
Well, I got one of those myself, and I believe it was from the city too. And go ahead.
Home audience up to date.
Yeah, the question was, would you please talk about the smart irrigation controllers? And she noted that the city of Woodbury now is limiting watering to 2 days a week. So, because watering your lawn takes a lot, and it really reduces the city's availability for firefighting and other important things.
So I had purchased one of those from the city of Coon Rapids myself. It works phenomenally. It does a higher level of monitoring and soil conditions instead of just rainfall, and so it knows how much water your grass actually needs, which is less than a lot of us think it does. Even in the sandy soil of Anoka County, it's less than what we think it does. And so anytime we can use that monitoring system and use less water, it is beneficial. In addition, as you remember last summer, so many of us were under drought conditions, and we had to really restrict our water use, and we even got to the point where, our water towers were getting really low until they would refill back up overnight. And so we want to be thinking ahead and planning ahead for those conditions too. And do we have a program still currently with that, if you want to share?
Yes, so we received a 2-year grant from the Metropolitan Council, and as part of the Clean Water, Land, and Legacy Amendment. I don't know if that's the exact phrasing, but that amendment to offer smart irrigation controllers to our residents for 2 years. So last year was the first year. We sold 125 Ratio smart irrigation controllers, and then this year we're offering another 125 to residents. We sold out within a week last year. They're in very high demand with our residents, and any city that is a part of the Metropolitan Council is eligible for this grant funding. And so it's a 2-year cycle, and you can use it to offer a variety of water efficiency products to your residents. So I would look into if your city has applied for those funds and received them, and what sort of program they're offering. And it may not be the smart irrigation controllers, because cities can sort of choose which water efficiency products they want to offer. I know that other cities have incentivized like water efficient toilets, washing machines, dishwashers, but we went with the smart irrigation controllers because they have had the largest impact.
And make use of the rebate on your old refrigerator. Don't take the temptation to put it out in the garage and store soda and other things in it, because then you're doubling your energy use instead of reducing your energy use. So keep that in mind. So there will be more again next year. Any idea what month to look out for that?
June 19th.
June 19th, mark it down.
Coon Rapids residents only.
Coon Rapids residents only.
Yes, one more question.
More of a comment than a question. I served on a Citizens League study back in the 90s on energy use. And one of the conclusions we came to, reduction in demand is much more efficient than trying to make production more efficient. So you're to be commended for concentrating on that.
Yes, I remember you talking specifically to that when we were in that meeting, when we were doing our energy action plan. It was good.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. It was a good discussion, and we're all charged now with going back to our cities and talking to them and getting things rolling otherwise. So thank you.
Thank you so much.